Thank you, Doug. I also appreciate Dana um, and also the National Park Service for giving BOEM this opportunity to come and explain our position, for reaching out and letting us be a sponsor for this important event. My name is Jimmy Moore. I am with the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, or BOEM. Specifically, I'm a marine archaeologist in their Office of Environmental Programs. I guess today I can claim as a sort of anniversary of sorts for BOEM. Today we are exactly 4 years and 2 weeks old. I can say we are definitely the youngest of the agencies and partners that are being involved with this event. Before, BOEM was known as MMS, the Minerals Management Service. In 2010, you may have heard of an incident called the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. After that, MMS was designated as BOEMER, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, Regulation and Enforcement. In 2011, that was split again into two separate agencies, BOEM and also BSEE, the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement. For its size, BOEM is actually on the smaller side compared to the jurisdiction it has. Our jurisdiction is about 1.7 billion acres, which is the outer continental shelf of the United States and its own territories. Given its size, we have 11 archaeologists, which is a little bit on the low side as well. So we are here to explain some of the challenges we face within our regulatory framework. We have our headquarters offices in Sterling, Virginia, which also houses our Office of Offshore Renewable Energy Programs and also our Minerals Management Program. We also have an office in New Orleans, Louisiana, which headquarters our Gulf of Mexico office. And then we have an office in Camarillo, California, which is our regional base for our Pacific studies. And then we have an office in Anchorage, Alaska, which is the home base of our Alaska studies. And overall, BOEM is charged with the responsibility of overseeing the responsible development of our country's offshore energy industry, and also with the extraction of sand and gravel, our mineral resources. So we also have to balance our natural resource studies with our cultural heritage and historic preservation responsibilities. I think for the most part, given the younger age of BOEM, we have all sorts of studies going on which cover an entire array of our responsibilities for historic and archaeological studies. We are, as Doug mentioned, we are doing paleocultural studies off of Rhode Island, trying to better define what constitutes a underwater landscape where paleocultural settlements may have been, where they may have been located. And given the challenge of working in such extreme environments, so far offshore and in deep water, we are balancing both the Native American oral tradition and perspective with the environmental data we are getting out there with remote sensing surveys and our coring surveys. We are also going to kick off another study off the Pacific coast, which our archaeologist Dave Ball will be explaining to you about the paleocultural study we will be doing off there, off of California. We are also doing studies in the Gulf of Mexico, trying to define environmental effects from the Deepwater Horizon oil spill on shipwrecks and cultural resources to better define how oil spills and disasters of its kind are affecting the degradation of shipwrecks and how they're actually impacting the natural environment and organisms that actually inhabit shipwrecks. Also, such as biological communities and microbes, which we have determined over time actually have a strong impact over how fast wooden and steel shipwrecks degrade, and how they can override the system of how shipwrecks can corrode over time in their site formation processes. We are also doing surveys of 19th century historic shipwrecks to get a better sense of the trade routes that were going on at that time, to give a better sense of that type of landscape, the cultural and the trade routes going on. And we have also had sponsorships sponsored studies of study of the Battle of the Atlantic to give a sense of maritime battlefields in those landscapes. So we do appreciate the opportunity to come here and try to help us better define what can be constituted as a landscape. BOEM itself is unfortunately very restricted with the type of funding that it can give out to the studies that it can be participants with. Because we are very mission focused, we do not have grant authority, unfortunately. So the studies that we engage with have to be done by either competitive contracts, or we have to do it as cooperative agreements with state-owned institutions in affected states. So that kind of limits us to coastal states and those state-owned institutions. And then our third avenue for study involvement is interagency agreements with other federal agencies. So we do appreciate any and all opportunities to reach out with those partners to get the data that we need so that we can build upon our multidisciplinary studies. As I mentioned, one of the challenges we face is getting to further identify what constitutes an underwater cultural landscape, especially off the outer continental shelf. When we were talking about features that could be hundreds of miles, hundreds of square miles in area, and the scientific data that we have is comparatively limited. So we do appreciate all opportunities to reach out with our tribal partners and our cooperative partners to try to get more data so that we can help corroborate the oral history of those tribal entities and also get that data from the sea floor so that we can better define these areas, so that from a scientific standpoint it isn't just conjecture, that we can actually pinpoint these ideas better, and yet work with the Park Service with expanding the definition of what constitutes a landscape within the National Register assessment program. So again, I do thank you. Thank you.